you have putting your own interpretation to the Bible. I am asking you, did he promise that the descendant of Ishmael will be a great nation? You did not give any historical evidence for that. Show me historical evidence that promise was fulfilled. You are going under interpretation of your own interpretation.
Okay, I got it. What does the word great mean?
According to me, it's spiritually and also by numbers. That I should show you a specific person that the Prophet ﷺ is from that person? No, I can't show you this.
Okay.
No, I can't show you this. Okay.
All right, so you're live now. What did you want to say?
Okay. You are making fun of me because I misspelled your name.
No, I wasn't.
I already told you English is not my language. Maybe I misspelled your name or something else.
I wasn't making fun of you.
Okay.
I was just having a little fun. I said it's perfectly okay to misspell my name. So.
Okay, no problem. Let's come to the topic.
Yes.
You said you do not find Muhammad in the Bible. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Did God promise Abraham that he will make the descendant of Ishmael a great nation?
Yes.
Okay. In Genesis 21, did this promise he fulfill this promise?
Yes, it's fulfilled within Ishmael's own lifetime.
Ishmael lifetime.
Yep.
Okay. Can you open Galatians chapter 4, verse number 21?
You sure can.
As he's pulling that up, Shahid, do you remember what Genesis 16:12 says?
Let's finish this one first, then invite.
I figured, well, you're going from Genesis to the New Testament, so I figured I'd at least stay in Genesis. But go ahead.
This is the same verse. This is talking about the same verse.
You got Galatians 4:21 up. Tell me, you who desire to be under the law, do you not listen to the law? For it is written that Abraham had two sons, one by a slave woman and one by a free woman. But the son of the slave was born according to the flesh, while the son of the free woman was born through the promise. Now this may be interpreted allegorically. These two women are covenants. One is from Mount Sinai, bearing children for slavery. She is Hagar. Now Hagar is Mount Sinai for Arabia. She corresponds to the present Jerusalem, for she is in slavery with her children. But the Jerusalem above is free, and she is our mother. So what do you think this has anything to do with a great nation, exactly?
So Ishmael was living in Arabia, okay?
Well, not according to the text, but...
Yeah, he was the son of Agar, and Agar was in Arabia, according to this verse.
Okay, so in the broader context, yes. The whole general area can be called Arabia. The word here is not an English word, obviously. It's in Greek, and they've chosen to translate it as Arabia.
Yeah, he is in Arabia. This is clear from the verse.
I just told you the whole entire region was referred to.
He is in Arabia. This is clear from the verse.
I just told you the whole entire region was referred to as Arabia. You're going to want to say that it's referring to Mecca specifically.
Not. I'm saying that he is referred. But I'm talking about the descendant of Ishmael. So can you show me from the history that the descendant of Abraham, the sons of Ishmael, they were a great nation? Can you show me anywhere in the history or in the book of in your Bible? Can you show us any evidence?
Yeah, if you read the Genesis narrative, you know, where the promise comes from, it talks about the many descendants of Ishmael. That is the fulfillment of the promise.
No, I am asking, show me where did he made the great nation of Ishmael. We don't have any evidence from the history that Ishmael have a great nation except the Prophet ﷺ.
Okay, first of all, you have no evidence that your prophet is related to Ishmael. Second of all, I just told you the evidence from the Bible. It describes his many descendants. It describes the people groups which he founded. They would.
Where,
Can you let me
where,
finish? Can you let me finish? Can you let me finish?
okay, okay.
The people groups that are descended from Ishmael are going to be the great nations that the nation of Israel is in conflict throughout the biblical narrative. There is no need to go 3,000 years in the future and say it's fulfilled in Muhammad when it's fulfilled within the biblical narrative. And I don't know why you went to Galatians. This doesn't have anything to do with anything.
I go to Galatians because he was promised that he will make the great nation, but we do not find anywhere in the history that the descent that the
You're just
children of
repeating
Ishmael
yourself.
become a great nation. You do not show me.
Yourself.
Well,
I am asking you, show me from the history that the descendant of Ishmael, they have become a great nation. Where they, can you show us in the history?
well,
I
according to
already
your,
told you.
actually, sorry, go ahead.
Because all the prophets in the Bible, they have been explained in details, but there is no details of the descendant of Ishmael.
What do you
And
mean
there
there's
is
no details of the descendants of Ishmael?
and there is no historical evidence that the nation of Ishmael, they have a great nation. Where is there?
I already told you that it's throughout the biblical narrative that the people groups that are descended from Ishmael are the nations that are in conflict with Israel. They are great nations. They are the enemies of Israel. And then you say because you want to go to Galatians because it has the word Arabia. That's all. The only reason you wanted to go there. It says, let me give an allegorical interpretation. Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia. So according to you, because he says that Hagar is Mount Sinai, and he happens to use the word Arabia, that somehow that has something to do with Muhammad. That's your argument.
My argument is that in Arabia there is only one prophet, a great nation, which is the Muslims. That's why I'm referring
why are you
to
talking about a prophet? Why are you talking about a prophet? There's no promise of a prophet. There was a promise that I will make you into a great nation. That promise was fulfilled in Isaiah, and it was fulfilled in Isaiah.
Was Ibrahim a prophet?
What does that have to do with anything?
Because his descendant must be prophet.
No, I'm not going on your wild goose chase. The promise is to make a great nation.
A great nation.
Nothing about you will be a prophet. Nothing about your descendant 4,000 years, 3,000 years later will be a prophet. Nothing about Muhammad. This is all your imagination. All the text says is I'll make you into a great nation. That means you will have many descendants, and they will be politically important in that area. In the immediate future.
This is only talking about the two sons, Ishmael and Isaac. Isaac, he has already made a covenant with him, but he didn't fulfill the promise with Abraham of Ishmael. How I already told you.
Show me from you just keep telling
you are referring only to the biblical text.
Yeah, I'm referring to the biblical narrative. That's where you got the dang promise from in the first place. If you can go to the biblical narrative for the promise, I certainly can go to the biblical narrative for the fulfillment of the promise.
No.
Don't tell me that I have to. Plus, you have zero evidence that your prophet is related to Ishmael. The Quran seems to think he's related to Isaac.
You are denying your own Bible.
I'm denying your idiotic interpretation.
You are making your own interpretation to the text. This is why you are not accepting it. You are.
All right, he's muted. Go ahead.
How do you spell gaslit? Trying to gaslight you very badly in Arabic. I'm not really sure how to do that. So he decided he's made quite a few mistakes here, and you've answered him wonderfully, Thaddeus, and correctly, and he has yet to actually interact with what it is that you're saying. But go ahead and stay. Don't change. Stay in that one spot. Stay in Galatians. Yeah. So he decided he wanted to go to
Go
Galatians.
Genesis. But
No, that's
yeah,
fine.
go ahead.
And we can go back to Genesis, but I want to, since he decided to take us to Galatians, let's go ahead and go to Galatians, right? So the son of the slave was born according to the flesh. So first and foremost, right, if he wants to make this argument that Ishmael or that Muhammad is the descendant of Ishmael, then that means that the entire nation of Arabia, right? And I don't believe that this is exactly what it's saying, but if he's going to go with this literal interpretation of it, this means that they should be slaves. They should be slaves. And let's say, well, we name our kids slave of Allah, and so, okay, great. For it is written that Abraham had two sons, one by the slave woman and one by the free woman. But the son of the slave was born according to the flesh. When we go back into Genesis, right, I'm going to go through the story, and hopefully, Shahid, you're actually listening here, buddy. And you are muted, so just please listen, and we'll unmute you whenever we're finished making our point. We'll let you make your point, of course. But whenever we go into the accounts, Abraham was promised to have many sons, numbering the stars of heaven, the sands of the seashore. And he was promised to have this son through whom, Thaddeus?
He was promised to have this son through his wife, and then
who?
Sarah. And
Okay.
then he said that, well, she's old. I need to have a son a different way.
Yeah.
So he went. He didn't really believe God's promise, and he and Sarah. Now, to be clear, it's consensual here, right? He's not
Correct.
going behind Sarah's back.
Yep.
He and Sarah said, why don't you impregnate this younger woman, Hagar, who is my slave, who's Sarah's slave. Therefore, it's a legitimate relationship because, you can legitimately claim the child as your own heir is what I'm trying to say, because of the legal relationship between Sarah and Hagar.
Right. And Hagar is a slave or a servant, right? And where did Abraham and Sarah pick her up from? Where is she from? Where is her homeland?
Egypt.
All right. So she's Egyptian, correct? So she's an Egyptian slave woman. All right. So Abraham and Sarah disobey God. And they decide that what they are going to do is the way that it should be done. They disobey God. And Hagar is caught in the middle of this, and she has a son named Ishmael. Is Ishmael the promised son?
So in Sarah and Abraham's opinion at the time, they're thinking this is how the promise will be fulfilled.
Okay.
But then God comes and he explicitly says, this is not what I promised. Because of my relationship with you, Abraham, I will bless Ishmael, but he is not the promise. He is not the person from whose line the promise will be fulfilled.
Exactly. Bingo. Right. And so it is not through his line, right? So mankind, first of all, the reasoning behind this is that mankind can mess up, right? They can disobey God, and God can still bless whatever it is that they messed up. That's one of the messages. But the other message is that was not the intention of God. What God's intention was for Sarah, the free woman, to have a son by Abraham, so that the promise of the promised land, of the message that would bless all nations are blessed through which nation? Thaddeus, which nation are all nations going to be blessed through?
Through the nation that comes from Isaac.
Right, which is, we know Israel now, which is Israel, right? So I'll let you kind of go ahead here. I've got some other things to say, but I don't want to get too far away before we let Shahid give us.
Let's go ahead and let him respond. Shahid, you're back up live. Please don't yell.
Why do you mute me? Yes, I have
because
no
you
time.
Kept yelling
And you have putting your own interpretation to the Bibles. I am asking you, did he promise that the descendant of Ishmael will be a great nation? You did not give any historical evidence for that. show me historical evidence that promise was fulfilled. You are going to interpretation of your own
Okay,
interpretation to
I got
to
it.
the
I got
Bible.
it. I got it. I got it. So
Show
define
show me
historical.
historical
You stop repeating
historical.
yourself, please. You don't need to say everything 4 times,
You are
okay?
not answering my question. I was
Nobody
How am I supposed
nobody
to
can
answer if you never
answer when
shut
you're
up?
yapping.
yeah.
Okay? So ask your question, then stop talking. Then I can answer. Don't ask your question and then immediately say, "You're not answering me." When you don't give me a chance. So please define what you mean by historical evidence.
Yeah, go give me from evidence from history that the promise of
I,
God with Abraham was fulfilled. Show me.
I'm asking. So you said, "Show me historical evidence." I'm asking what you consider historical evidence. It's a simple question. What would you
From the
consider
history
valid proof?
outside from the Bible. Show me from
Okay,
the
so
history.
why do I have to show you something from outside the Bible?
But you don't have because I am asking the specific question. Show me from the history that the promise was fulfilled.
Show me from history outside the Bible that Abraham existed. We both agree Abraham was a very important prophet. Show
I
me
I
outside the
agree with
Bible.
him.
Show me outside the Bible that Abraham existed.
I am making my arguments from the Bible, and then when he was promised according to the scripture, but you do not show me any evidence from the Bible. I am asking you also from the Bible that the children of Ishmael was a great nation. You do not have any evidence from the Bible. You do not have any evidence from the history, and you are going and putting your own interpretation to the text. I am specifically asking a simple question from the from your Bible. Show me that this promise was fulfilled, and show me also from the history. If you cannot
Can,
find from in the Bible, show me in the history.
okay, you don't need to repeat yourself over and over again. Again, just make your point and stop. You don't need to say it 3 times. So make up your mind. When I told you what the Bible says, you said go to something outside the Bible. So is the Bible acceptable evidence or not?
If you are not able to give me reference from the Bible, then I ask you show me from the history. You do not have any evidence for that.
I didn't say I couldn't make you a reference from the Bible.
Show me.
Yes, I will. So so Ishmael's descendants are described in Genesis. I got to check what chapter, but we'll go there. I don't have all the references memorized.
You can
It's
go only
Genesis
to Isaiah for.
17. No, I'm not going to go just to the verses that you tell me to go to. We can look at all of the evidence. So here is Genesis 17:20. For as for Ishmael, I heard you. Behold, I have blessed him and will make him fruitful and multiply him greatly. He shall father 12 princes, and I will make him into a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this time next year. The passage is telling you exactly what God is going to do. It tells you exactly what great nation means. That Ishmael will be blessed with many children. Specifically, he'll father 12 princes. That's what it means. Why are you interpreting great nation as a prophet? That he'll have a prophet many
Okay, what?
years in the future that's his
Okay,
descendant. What does that have to do with being a great nation? What does the word
okay.
great mean? What does the word
According
great
to
mean?
me, it's spiritually and also by numbers.
So you say that the word great here means
Great means
spiritually
spiritually, he will make
and
him
by
spiritually
numbers.
great and also will in numbers.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. The Hebrew word is gadol. I'm going to pull up the lexicon, which will tell us what the word means. Okay? So,
Okay, let me, if you don't mind me jumping in here real quick,
yep.
Shahid, you need to be consistent with your arguments, right? So you're demanding of us that we prove things either biblically or extra biblically with sources. Thaddeus just asked you a question, and you answered literally by saying, "In my opinion."
That's
So
true.
I just want to point that out. That's
Excuse
your
me, excuse
opinion, and
me.
that's fine. But I just want to point out that if you're going to demand certain things from us, a certain standard, then I would appreciate it if you're willing to hold yourself to the same standard. I just want to say that. I just want to point that out. I will pause and mute myself up here again while Thaddeus
All right.
goes ahead and
So
explains things.
here are all the definitions of great, what it can be applied to in Hebrew, right? So great in size. We see how that one would make sense. Great in height, as in a mountain, that obviously doesn't make sense. In extent, in number makes sense within the passage. In weight, obviously doesn't make sense. In significance, in volume, in influence, in collocations, in fixed expressions, varia, which is a specialized Hebrew term. And then it can also mean God is great. So the term can be used to describe God's attributes. It can be described in a specialized Hebrew phrase, or it can be used in the way English word used great is for, size, height, number. The passage itself tells us how to understand it. It tells us that it should be understood as number, that he will raise a great nation, as in a nation of a large number of people, that Ishmael will have many descendants, and that they will found a new nation. That is what the context makes sense. You'll notice that I did not read anything that says anything about spirituality. Stood is number, that he will raise a great nation, as in a nation of a large number of people, that Ishmael will have many descendants, and that they will found a new nation. That is what the context makes sense. You'll notice that I did not read anything that says anything about spirituality, let alone prophethood. So I have supplied a source for why I believe the passage is describing the large nations that will come from Ishmael. And if we read on in Genesis, it'll eventually say the specific names of the 12 people, the 12 princes. And then we will see that the nations that they founded, i.e., that are named after them, occur again and again in the biblical narrative. Now it's your turn to give me a reason to believe that this passage is a promise of a future prophet.
Okay, if I broke in the middle because my battery, the cell phone battery is getting down, so I ask you, and you go to the meaning and here and there. I am simply ask a simple question: that this promise that he will make the nation of Ishmael a great nation. This is in numbers, not in anything else. You are going around in here. Okay, I am asking. This is about numbers. He will make a great nation in numbers. Can you
Yeah,
show me the evidence from the Bible or outside from the Bible that they have made a great nation, the descendant of Ishmael? Can you show me any evidence?
sure. We can go through the entire biblical narrative and see how many times the people groups that will be descended from Ishmael occur in the biblical
Okay,
narrative, if you really want to.
can you name the descendant of Ishmael first?
Yeah, I got to look up where it
Yeah.
names them.
Genesis 25. Genesis 25.
Okay, thank you. So you already know that the Bible names them. Well,
I know.
what are you disputing with me then?
Yeah, I'm disputing, but there is nothing mentioned the descendant of Ishmael that they have a great nation except one. This is called Kedar. Okay, he was
Okay,
the
so
second son of he was the second son of Ishmael, and the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ is directly go to Kedar.
you just told me that Kedar is a great nation. You just said that Kedar is a great nation, therefore it was fulfilled in Kedar.
I am not telling you that Kedar was a great nation. There is no evidence that Kedar was,
You want me to
but the
rewind?
descendant of
You literally
Kedar.
just said that.
Why you why you are breaking the thing? But I ask you just to give me the example. Give me evidence from the Bible. I'm waiting.
So we have the 12 sons of Ishmael here, already showing that God has fulfilled the first aspect of the promise, that he will have 12 sons, and he will have. Now, just before we go look anywhere else, just think about this, okay? God said that you're going to have many descendants. You'll start with 12 sons, and then they'll have many children. If someone has 12 sons, just without any other evidence, is it very likely that they'll have a lot of grandchildren, or that they'll only have 1 or 2 grandchildren?
He has 12 sons. I'm from these 12 sons. Give me any evidence that there is a great nation among these 12 sons.
Thaddeus, you mind if I step in here real quick, buddy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So if you go to Genesis 17:20, what you're going to see is, as for Ishmael, this is Yahweh speaking, I have heard you, and I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and multiply him, and he will become the father of 12 rulers. I will make him into a great nation. So the explicit reference here in terms of what great means is multiply him greatly and fruitful, meaning that he will have many descendants. It's exactly what Thaddeus said, and this answers your question.
Yeah, this is mean in numbers, and I'm asking him, show me that the descendant of Ishmael, they have a great nation in numbers. He do not provide any evidence to me in the Bible, from the Bible,
I just read it.
and from the history.
I just read it to you.
It's fine. It's fine. We'll go slow. So you said that I could go to the Bible or history. So I'm just going to go to Kedar, since that's the one that you already told me was a great nation. And I'm going to go to history. I could go to look at the examples in the Bible and how there repeatedly are, and that Ishmael's various sons and their descendants are often enemies of Israel. But since you've acknowledged Kedar, we're just going to go with that. And sorry, I did not share in the right window, so let me share correctly this time. So we have the Wikipedia article on the Kedarites, a group known from history. The Kedarite kingdom, or Kedar, was largely nomadic, ancient Arab tribal confederation described as the most organized of the northern Arabian tribes. At the peak of its power in the 6th century BCE, it had a kingdom that controlled a vast region of Arabia. Sounds like a great nation to me. What do you think, Astrid?
I think so as well. And to also indicate the northern part, like you just mentioned here, if you go to Genesis 25:18, it says Ishmael's descendants settled from Halva to Shur, which is near the border of Egypt as you go towards Asher. And they lived in hostility toward all of their brothers. All right. So again, Ishmael's descendants settled near the border of Egypt. Okay, so near the border of Egypt. I wonder why that would be. Where's Hagar from again?
Yeah, we have a map here in Wikipedia article showing where the region of their kingdom was.
Thaddeus, I ask a specific. Thaddeus, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I ask you a specific question. You do not show me any evidence that the nation of Ishmael, they have a great nation, and he will make him a fruitful nation. What does it mean by fruitful? Fruitful means that you do not show me any evidence. You are going here and there. Yeah, why you are not stuck to the point? I am asking, give me any evidence from the history. You do not provide it. Give me evidence from the Bible. You do not provide it. It means you are failed to provide any evidence from the Bible and also from the Bible. You are going here and there and just making your own argument.
So you're very good at making assertions that I'm not answering your question. You're not very good at listening, however.
I listen to you. You read me articles from the Wikipedia, and you do not show me evidence that the nation was a great nation. What was their fruit? What was their teaching? What they teach? They do not show me anything.
Okay, nobody said anything about teaching. We said it was in Numbers. We showed you from the Bible where it explicitly says
it is mentioned that
Please stop interrupting. Go ahead, Astrid.
No, I mean, I was just trying to say, and hopefully he's able to listen, right? We've already established for him that Ishmael, the word great, right, never said anything about spiritual, and he even admitted that it was in his opinion that that's what great meant. when we go to the context and the meanings, the possible meanings of the word used in Hebrew, none of it has anything to do with what he said. What it has to do with, and specifically the verses that we have quoted to him, is it has to do with the numbers of his descendants. Fruitful people, right? Ishmael will be fruitful. He will have many, and Yahweh says, God says that he will greatly multiply his offspring. That's how we do proper hermeneutics. That is how we read for context. The context of the passage of what great means, it means great in number. We can actually even contrast that with the promise made to Isaac, and the same thing is the same type of language is being used. He will be fruitful, he will multiply, his descendants will be like the numbers of the stars. The word great in this context means great in number. So I'm not sure why he keeps asking about a nation and things like that. There are plenty of northern Arabian / east of Egypt nations that we can list throughout the history of time that would be considered a great nation. At the same time, as you mentioned earlier, Thaddeus, it's impossible for him to even track himself or Muhammad back to the descendants of Ishmael. And even in the region that is shown there on the picture, the region of who would be considered the Ishmaelites does not reach far south enough to even get to Mecca in general. So the assertions that he is making are great stories, but they don't have any actual historical backing. They don't relate to any of the writings in the Bible. And everything that we have done to this point has demonstrated using proof, right? We're looking at maps, we're pulling up Bible verses, and his best argument right now is to just continue to say the same thing. You have not showed me this, you have not showed me that. When in fact, it's clear to us, it's clear to you, it's clear to the audience. We have literally showed him everything that he has asked for. Now, I'm done with my little bit. And
yep. So I just want to reiterate that you told me to go to any source inside or outside the Bible. I first went to the Bible, showed that he had 12 sons, and I was trying to talk you through it logically. But then you started yelling at me that Kedar was a great nation. Kedar was the only of the 12 that had a great nation. Then you said that you had misspoken. You didn't actually mean that. Fine, you didn't mean that. But history tells us, in fact, that the Kedarites were a historical people that were substantial in size. Now, historians don't necessarily believe the biblical narrative, but if you're going to say Kedar's a real, like might say that Kedar's not a real person, right? Historians might say that. But the Kedarites existed. The Kedarites were a great nation. So if we're taking the biblical narrative seriously, and you have to say Kedar is a historical person, because as you just pointed out, this is who Muhammad supposedly is descended from, then the nation that bears his name was indeed a great nation. You're back on. Iqbal, you can, or Shahid, you can speak now if you like.
What I can speak, you do not provide anything. You are making your own interpretations of why I mentioned this prophecy, because it is mentioned in the Quran in chapter 22, verse number 78, and God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, tells the Prophet that this religion of yours is the religion of your father Abraham, and the Abraham is the lineage from Ishmael. The last Prophet Muhammad is from Ishmael. Can you pull out the ones, chapter 22, verse 78?
Yep, I can bring that up.
This is the great nation, which the Kedarites. You are talking about Kedarites for a great nation. This is what I mentioned, that Kedar was the descendant. Yeah, Kedar.
Yeah, but I don't remember anybody saying Kedar, but go ahead.
There is nothing mentioned Kedar, but he is promised that this Islam is the religion of his forefather Abraham. And this is the great nation which was promised to Ibrahim.
So at least the first source I have here, they're either using a different numbering system or you have the wrong reference. Because
you said 2278
isn't about Ishmael or.
It's a very long verse. Read all the verse.
Strike. Okay, I'll read it. Strive in the cause of Allah in a manner worthy of striving. He has chosen you, and he has not laid upon you any hardship in religion. Keep to the faith of your father Abraham. So is that what you're referring to? That portion there?
Yeah. He is
And
telling you this.
so,
This is the religion. Islam is the religion of your father, and the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ directly go to the Ibrahim
okay,
alayhi salam.
okay.
And
Where?
this is you mentioned yourself the Kedarites and from the Arab, the Kedarites from Arab, and there is only one person which come in the Arab and was make a great nation also, and he was a fruitful nation and also was a great nation in numbers. There is no any other one in history and biblical.
Again, you're
Uh,
very good at repeating your assertions over and over again. Can you show me any historical or Quranic evidence that 2278 is talking about Ishmael?
this is talking about the to the Prophet Muhammad that Ibrahim was your father. This is
Okay.
direct. This is direct reference to this is direct reference to Ibrahim
Can you answer
alayhi salam.
Can you calm down? Calm down. Take it slow. I didn't say that this isn't related to Muhammad. Pay attention to the question I'm actually asking you. Can you
Yeah,
show me that the son of Abraham that's being referenced is Ishmael? Or are you just adding your own interpretation to the Quran?
Does Abraham have sons?
He has
Ishmael.
more than one
Yeah,
son.
and Ishmael have sons.
He asks you a question, and you're not.
Yeah, so you want that I should show you a specific person that the Prophet ﷺ is from that person? No, I can't show you this.
Okay.
Because Quran is not. Quran
this
do not
is your
show.
interpretation.
But
Thank you for admitting
this
that.
is not my. This is the direct words directed to the Prophet ﷺ. God is directed. Giving the,
You're correct that the Quran claims that Muhammad is descended from Abraham. It does not
yeah.
claim that he's descended from Ishmael. So your argument doesn't even get off the ground because you're assuming that the Quran believes that Muhammad is descended from Ishmael, and the Quran doesn't actually say that. It could be referring to Isaac.
So we from history we know from the biblical narrative that Ibrahim has a son Ishmael, and Ishmael was promised in the book of Genesis that his descendant will be a great nation, and the Prophet ﷺ is from the descendant of Ishmael. So what evidence more you need?
You don't. First of all, you don't get to make that assertion. You have to provide evidence that Muhammad is descendant from Ishmael. Second of all, we've explained to you from the context, great nation means having many descendants. We've shown you from history that indeed Ishmael had many descendants and that a great nation in influence as well was already raised up. You're just assuming that great nation means there'll be a future prophet, and there's no justification for that whatsoever. So until you show me where the phrase a great nation means a future prophet in your descendants many years down the line, you don't even have the beginnings of an argument. You're just asserting that you know what great nation means, even though that's not even an interpretation that Hebrew offers for the word great.
So what is your understanding of the verse of Genesis which he promised to God promised with Ibrahim? What do you mean by this?
What do you mean? What is my interpretation? We've gone
already
over it multiple times.
You are putting your own interpretation to the text. That's why I'm asking you.
No, I am not. I am not.
This is no.
I am exegeting.
No. You are just playing.
Okay.
Projecting what you're doing is not the same as what we're actually doing. Let me
explain to you the difference, right? We're looking at the context. We're looking at how the phrase is used in context. What a great nation means in context. Where this
Excuse me.
No problem. And so we are explaining we are giving our meaning out of the text. We are looking at it where it says, I will multiply you greatly. I will give you many descendants. I will raise a great nation. And we're saying all these terms mean the same thing, because that's how normal interpretation means. You look at the context, you determine what meaning of... Sorry, he's muted now. I'll unmute him when it's his turn to talk, but too much background noise. So we're looking at the text, we're looking at the context, we're saying that the word should make sense in context. What you're saying is, whatever I believe the text means, that's what it means. And then you're accusing me of saying that. No, I'm the one that's looking at the context and providing you evidence that my interpretation, if you want to call it my interpretation, even though it's clearly the plain meaning of the text, was fulfilled. You have not provided any evidence that the word great can mean spiritual. You have not provided any evidence that Muhammad is descended from Ishmael. You have not provided any evidence that the phrase great nation means a future prophet. So one of us is indeed reading their imaginary interpretation into the text, but I'm sorry, sir, it's not me. You may speak.
Okay, okay, no problem. If you are not satisfied, it's upon you. But I already give you.
You didn't give me anything. You gave me literally nothing.
Listen. Excuse me. It's time for work. Okay.
Okay.
I will contact later on. Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay.
God All right.
Well, that
was
what
very
I expected.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he legitimately has to work. I'm not.
No, not the work part. I'm saying just how the conversation.
Yeah. That was very interesting. You know, I read the text, I interpret the text based on the context, and I am just making stuff up. Like I said, he's very good at asserting over and over again his position. He did not provide me any evidence. He didn't answer any of my questions. And then he says, before he had to go, I think he was about to say, you know, I provided you ample evidence. If it's not good enough for you, that's your problem.
Yeah.
He didn't provide me anything. He provided me a single Quran verse that doesn't even mention Ishmael or talk about any great nation or anything else.
And that's exactly how our conversation